602 or go to give2WBAI.org on the web. Stay tuned for State of the Arts NYC with Savona Bailey-McClain coming up.
Good evening. This is State of the Arts NYC, where we cover art. And tonight we are going to be talking about the Black Panther and its cultural and box office impact around the country and the globe. So we will have joining with us tonight Mike Sargent. Mike Sargent is the chief film critic for WBAI's radio daytime film review program REELWORLD, and he hosts WBAI's popular late-night radio show NITESHIFT, which features live guests including everyone from Harlan, Ellison, Richard Dreyfuss to Levar Burton. Sargent is a nationally quoted film critic whose quotes have been used in national television, print, and radio advertising campaign. He is also a founding member of the Black Film Critics Circle. So, Mike, are you on the air?
I am on the air here with you.
Yes. So I have to alert everyone that unfortunately Eric Cohn will not be joining us. He is stuck trying to get to California, and there's been all these delays with the nor'easter and then as well as the bad weather on the West Coast. So Eric has offered to come back at another time to talk about films, but I am so glad to have Mike on the air with us to talk about this cultural movement that has begun with the Black Panthers. Now, just to let everyone know some numbers, because there's been some recent numbers as of today. Box office numbers. Domestically, the Black Panthers has brought in $435.4 million. Internationally, $344.9 million. It is expected that this weekend, both domestically and globally, it will cross the $800 million mark as of today. They are saying that this is number 16 in all-time releases. The stats are 56 to 44% domestic to international ratio. It will open in China March 9th, and this was fascinating. On day one in Japan, it made $1 million. Now, isn't this something, Mike, about a superhero film?
Well, it's more than a superhero film, and there's a lot of reasons why this is happening. Mm-hmm. How much you want me to say, but there are a lot of reasons why this is happening. This is something significant, and to give context, all superhero films are essentially science fiction films, because that's what superhero movies are, and the concept is. And the most money-making, most influential, most seen by the most human beings on the planet of all genres is science fiction and fantasy.
That's true.
That means that culturally, we as human beings prefer this genre. And if you look at the top 25, top 10, top 15, they're all science fiction, fantasy, or cartoon, which essentially is fantasy anyway. Mm-hmm. And so for now, what is being labeled essentially Afrofuturism, which is black science fiction back in my day, to come into the mix, it shows just how hungry the world is for a different kind of story.
Yes, and this one here, I really liked it. When I saw it, I wanted to dance at the end of the film because the music was also very compelling. I felt like I really was transported back to Africa. I felt certain scenes just lend itself to modern cities in Africa, and for a lot of people, that's very new. Seeing Africans in modern cities dressed in a variety of different styles, whether it's street or pop, Afro pop, it was refreshing to see, and I was smiling the whole time because I could feel, the film. It wasn't just something that you saw, but you could feel it. And I thought that was, just transformative. What were your reactions when you saw the film?
Well, again, to give context, you have to understand, I'm, I guess, what you'd call a pioneering Afrofuturist. I came to WBAI doing science fiction radio drama about a sort of a black secret agent in the future.
Okay.
So science fiction has always been something I've been in love with, and black science fiction even more so. So for me, this is something I've dreamed of for years.
Okay.
And, the way I look at it is the nature of what science fiction is the ability to say, what if?
Mm-hmm.
So the very precept of what if there was a place on Earth where Europeans did not colonize and those people of color were able to advance on their own. That's a significant what if. And to see it on screen, to see it realized, to have all of these heroes and male and female, heroes and sheroes on screen kicking ass, there's no other feeling that I can describe it.
Well, you know what? I think what's going to happen also, because I heard you're saying this, what if? A lot of people don't realize when you really talk about transatlantic slavery, it wasn't this random sort of, we're going to just snatch people and we're just going to use them for raw labor. It wasn't that simple. It was European nations seeking out Africans who at that time were very skilled at cultivating rice, jollof rice. They were very good at mining gold that the Europeans wanted, smithing gold. They were very good in navigation and in languages. So for, a couple of 100 years and that 400-year period of the transatlantic slave trade, Africans were sought after for their skills, their advanced skills. So I think this is great because now we've moved to the future and we can show what we could do with technology and other types of advances. And I think that too is what's making the film, such a blockbuster, because you can bridge old traditions and old styles with modern, advances as well. And do you think this is going to change the landscape of filmmaking now in America, now that you've seen an all-black cast do so well?
Absolutely. Listen, we're only getting a taste of what this is. We in my opinion, most people don't even get. They know, there'll be more black science fiction, there'll be more Black Panther, but what this is doing, this is dispelling a number of myths.
Okay.
And changing the game. This essentially is the Star Wars of black film.
Yeah.
And I say this again to give context because I'm a film critic, but I'm also a filmmaker. And one of the things as a filmmaker that you'll always hear when you make a black film is that black films don't travel. They don't travel. There's no international for black film. Black films don't travel. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that our stories about people of color, are not, there's no interest in them around the world? Well, it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you never give someone a taste of something, they'll never know how much they like it or how much they need it. And what this film is showing is not only do people want to see it, but it's not making all this money just because of black folks. It's making all this money because the world wants to see this.
Oh, yeah.
The world wants to embrace this. The world is interested in seeing what we have to say, what we have to show. And the other part of this is what makes this different than any other science fiction, where there's a black character, whether it's played by Will Smith or whoever, and the character happens to be black. This is where these are black folks who are Afrocentric. They are proud. Their heritage, like you said, that history is part of who they are today. They're embracing their traditions, without giving away much of the movie. There are characters who are conflicted because their loyalty is not to their lover or their individual.
Right.
But their loyalty is to the country of Wakanda.
Yes, yes. I thought that was amazing too. And yes, not trying to be a spoiler, but that really was a very, very important aspect of the film. It was just, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just so wonderful to see. And you're right, the various traditions. I just read an article where people never knew that Africans wore plates in their lips. And they didn't know about the various scarrings that people engaged in as decorative elements. Or they didn't understand the various facial designs with the lines and the brushes and the dots. It was just this whole new world opened up to audiences where they got a real glimpse of African history, African culture, and I loved it. And I think that this is going to make a difference as students, children, inquire about the film, the characters, the culture. And I think, our educational system may not be able to handle this. What do you think?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned children, because if I, and you just have to stop me when I go on too much, but if I was going to talk about what I probably think is the most important component of this, is children and what it will do for young boys and girls of color to, now for the first time, they can feel the way lots of white kids have felt when they see Superman or Batman or Spider-Man or any number of Wonder Woman or any number of heroes that look like them.
Right.
For them to see, even if they don't necessarily have any knowledge of Africa, if you're West Indian, if you're a dark Dominican, whatever you are, you're seeing somebody that looks like you. Mm-hmm. And that person is a hero. Yeah. And for young boys and girls, the notion that you could be something and to capture that imagination is life-changing, okay? Yes. Science fiction has long, we all remember flip phones reminded us of Communicator in Star Trek.
Right.
That's just a little glimpse of how science fiction, the what if, can become what is. And imagine how many young girls would have been in science if they were aware of what the women in Hidden Figures had done.
That's correct.
Okay, so in my opinion, what this film will do will change not only that, and you mentioned something else too. It hasn't even opened in China, which is probably one of the biggest markets in the world for film, because very often a film can make a certain amount here, it'll make 2 or 3 times that in China. Now, this changes the global perception of what it is to be a person of color. This is a celebration of being African from the diaspora. So that is also, that's culturally significant, considering just how much we as human beings need to tell stories and the power of story, immeasurable.
It's like it lays it levels the playing field because you have now these new heroes, Shuri and T'Challa and the Queen Mother. Now you level that playing field, and people can, like you just said, walk in pride and feel good, and may now feel encouraged to engage in different career opportunities or business opportunities without worrying about whether they, succeed or not. It's all about the effort. It's all about trying. Now, this levels that playing field, and various people see everyone else's humanity. It isn't just about a person's color. It isn't just, about, their features. It's about looking at the human being and seeing them for who they are. And that's why I've always liked science fiction. I have been involved in Star Wars, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, you name it, Games of Thrones. I've been all in that fantasy because it pushes the envelope of various possibilities. What stories do you like? I'm thinking about Octavia Butler too. Are you a fan of hers as well?
I was not only a fan, I was a friend of Octavia Butler.
Wow.
Again, like I said, just going back, I started BAI doing science fiction radio drama, and at the time I was doing this in the late 80s, early 90s when I started BAI, and I was a kid, there are only a handful of black science fiction authors, and I made it my business to know every one of them. So I knew Sam Delaney, who's still around, Chip Delaney. I knew Stephen Barnes, who's still around writing. I knew, Octavia Butler, and if they were a black science fiction writer, I made it my business to know them because there were so few of us. Now, in the last 5-10 years, Afrofuturism has exploded.
Yes.
There are conventions and comic book conventions, and it's a whole new world. So
no, it's good. I went and got the hard copy of the Black Panthers, written by Mr. Coates, who is here in New York City at the Apollo Theater, and beautiful.
Were you there for that? I was there for that.
I wasn't able to because I had to go to another fair, but I knew of it and I shared it with others. Encourage people to go. And then, it was beautifully illustrated. And then my nephew, I gave it to my nephew for Christmas, and he just looked and he dropped his mouth. And I said, "Oh, so did I do good?" He just looked at me. He's 10 years old. He said, "Yeah, you did real good." So now it's catching on to a whole new generation. And you're right. It's like all of these different individuals who are now involved in the hard cover comic books and the illustrations that go with it. Now also they're doing virtual reality, augmented reality. I just saw a demonstration last week at City College where a young lady was doing augmented reality. This is like exploding like I've never seen before.
Well, I concur, and again, coming back to the children, like you said, from the time you're a young person in this country, if you're a person of color, if you're black, you've heard that you're the descendant of slaves. You're the descendant of slaves. You're the descendant of slaves. No matter how you slice it, no matter how you spin it, this is part of your history, and there's only a certain way you can feel about that. Now, to have a movie and storylines where the narrative is you're a descendant of kings, it changes your perspective on the world. And also to touch upon what you said about, the history and the past being significant to the future, there are so many aspects of today's world, the world we live in right now, African Americans contributed to, that you would never know. You would just never know. And though, we just came off of Black History Month and it's a time that we celebrate it, but again, the more hopefully you start to see that not only can you be a hero, you can be a king, you can be a queen, you can dominate, here's the concept of Wakanda. Wakanda is the most technologically advanced nation on the planet. That's quite a science fiction.
Yeah, there really is. And I think also what it does, not just for African Americans or people in the African diaspora, I think it inspires people all over the world because there are a lot of stories that have not been told, that have not been shared, of so many different people and cultures. And I think this is now going to revolutionize filmmaking, period. I think now, for the first time, you have Hollywood acknowledging that maybe we should have done this a long time ago. Look at the returns that they have gotten because they didn't believe that people would be interested in seeing a Wonder Woman, which also made close to $1 billion, or they wouldn't be interest in seeing Creed, or they wouldn't be interested in seeing, other characters like Luke Cage. So now I think they're going to change their minds and welcome a variety of people. Look at Coco. That was also popular. Or Mulan. Now they're starting to see that people are interested in seeing these various stories about different groups of people and cultures that they may or may not know. And how will that impact, movie making for directors like yourself?
Well, I agree with you, and I think it will impact. I mean, for someone like me specifically, hopefully it would mean I can get, the character I was trying to get done 20 years ago, I can get that done because I was ahead of my time at the time. But like you said, unfortunately, we've lived in a world where very often cultural pride meant cultural prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can dispel that notion and we can each embrace what's great about each culture,
yes,
what's different, the things that are dividing us are not what's important, it's the things that make us the same that are important.
Yes,
and to see that, just to understand in Black Panther reconciling with the death of a parent,
mm-hmm.
Rising to the occasion of something. These are human things. They have nothing to do with being Wakandan. They just have to do with being human.
Yes.
And that ultimately is what good science fiction is about, but more importantly, that's what good stories are about.
Yes.
You know? Seeing how these stories can be told, whether it's through the lens of Afrofuturism, through the lens of cartoons, but seeing and embracing, like you said with Coco, seeing something you don't understand. I don't understand the Day of the Dead. How can you celebrate Day of the Dead? Well, you make a movie that shows how and why. Now you have a different respect for that culture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I that's why I always love science fiction. I still remember when I was a little kid watching Star Trek, and I remember Captain Kirk and Uhura, that famous love scene. That was groundbreaking because they were trying to push the envelope. That's what those makers were trying to say. Let's show a world where you have different people or creatures interacting with each other. And now we have the modern day Star Trek where you have a different Uhura who's Dominican interacting with Spock and dealing with their relationship. It blew my mind. It was like, wow, look how they retooled that story, that brand, and it just opened the envelope on how you said dealing with human issues. And that's what we should be celebrating, what really binds us together and not what makes us so different, because I think there's more in common than we sometimes are willing to admit. Well, you know, Mike, this has been great. I mean, down to the costumes, which I thought were a phenomenon, the hairstyles, that was very political. I thought that was all great, where people could reference the civil rights time or the Black Panthers on the West Coast with the afros, or the women just saying, don't want to wear any wigs, or not have my hair permed, or not have my hair pressed. I'm just as beautiful. Pam Grier, you know, doing the blaxploitation films. All of this, I think, came out with the release of this film. And do you think historically this is going to help young people again connect with their elders?
Yes, I do, and I think importantly, like I said, you know, and like you mentioned, you know, connecting with the future and having a vision of the future that's positive. I mean, if you're a science fiction fan, it's long been the long time joke with people who, you know, people of color who like science fiction is that the black character dies. Okay, and that's always been the long time joke. You know, you're waiting for the black character to get killed, trying to save the white character. It's a cliche, but it's also almost an unconscious thing that's recurred so often. It's not going to happen in a film where the creator. It's not going to happen in Octavia Butler's world or Steve Barnes' world or any number of writers who are conscious of other things, who are conscious of who the soul of these black characters. And I also have to say, you know, like you said, appreciating the past, you know, there are so many things that we've contributed that, you know, if you knew about it, it might inspire you. You know, we wouldn't even have sound synced to film if it weren't for a black inventor named Fred McKinley Jones. Most people don't know that, but he was the guy who figured it out. He's also the same guy who invented the refrigerated truck. But again, just knowing that makes you go, really? And you go and look and you see he had something like 40 different patents for different things.
Right.
He was a genius.
Right.
But you never heard of him.
Right. Well, I just want to thank you so much, Mike, for joining us. For the benefit of our audience, me and Mike bumped into each other at the Black Comic Book Festival at the Schomburg Center, and I was racing in coming from another event, and he heard me talking to some young people, and he was like, "Who are you?" And then I said, "Oh, hi, Mike, it's me, Savona." It was great. So I just want to say thank you. Hopefully you could come back on our show again where we could talk about film and we can explore it and enlighten our listeners. So thank you so very much. And I know you're going to be coming back later to help WBAI with a special drive. So we're going to let you go now.
Stay tuned.
Yes. And then we're going to have a short break. And I want folks to hear an interview from the Art Dealer of Association of America. And we are back with State of the Arts NYC, where we cover art. So we are now going to share with you a short interview that I had with Nola Zurin, I should say, and she did some beautiful abstract works. She's being represented by the June Kelly Gallery that has been in Soho over 20 years. They're at the Park Avenue Armory, where the Art Dealers of America is having their art fair. We had their new executive director, Maureen Bray, just on our show a couple of weeks ago. So now I want you to hear this artist. I'm here at the Art Dealers of America's Association Art Fair at the Park Avenue Armory, and I am here at the June Kelly booth. I love her gallery, and so we have one of her featured artists here. So I want her to introduce herself and to tell us a little bit about her works. So, your name?
Hi, I'm Nola Zurin, and I've been with the June Kelly Gallery since the late 80s. We've been working together, and she's a wonderful person who's been very supportive of my work. And this is a wonderful opportunity to be at this art fair. And this is a solo show at the art fair in her booth. And I'm able to show some of my very exciting new geometric paintings, as well as some of my older pieces. They're not really very old, but to me, 5 or 6 years means an older painting. I'm basically painting on canvas with oil and mixed media, some glitter, some stencils with spray paint. They reflect an urban feeling of the city, and also a sort of a neo-geo constructionist feeling. Thank you.
Well, I have a few more questions. So tell us, how did you begin your art career? Did you go to art school? Was it organic for you? How did you start your practice?
I did go to art school. When I was quite young, my mother did some sculpting. She saw that I was interested in painting, and she enrolled me in the Brooklyn Museum sculpture school, and I was very taken with the Katinka dolls and the totems in the Brooklyn Museum, very unusual. Then I went to Boston University for fine art, and then I studied with some wonderful painters at NYU, Milton Resnick, John Opper, and Robert Tiemann, a few of the names, and they were very inspiring. Then I studied at the printmaking workshop. I did a lot of prints when I had young children, so I was able to keep working. And then I studied with Don Stewart, who did actually one of the first prints with Jasper Johns and Margaret Motherwell, Alla Pintora. So all of this is sort of a combination and influences.
Well, that's quite impressive. I mean, the names that you have been throwing out in the last 10 seconds, this is phenomenal. So tell us a little bit about what your hopes are for this particular installation booth at the fair? Do you think a lot of people will appreciate your work here?
Well, I'm hopeful that people will enjoy the paintings and appreciate them. And as all artists, one can spend many lonely hours in the studio, but with recognition and support, we could go for the next 100 years. That's all we need.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed several of the works. I loved the green painting here in the geometric shapes. I like that very much. And even this piece here, what do you call this particular work?
Incendiary Sky.
It's very beautiful. It seems more landscape than just sky, but I like it very, very much. And, you know, I like this fair. This fair has been quite impressive, I have to say the least. And yes, you're right. June Kelly, she's been around for a very long time in Soho, and she's represented a lot of female artists as well. And that's really good because women artists are still kind of struggling and getting their voices heard, but I think that's going to change now. So thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for interviewing me.
And we're back. And we're going to now have a special where Mike Sargent is coming back onto the air, and he is going to be conducting this special to benefit WBAI. We're still in fund drive. Folks can still make pledges, 516-620-3602. You could do a pledge for this show. You can support the gifts that he has for audiences. You could text all these different things so that we can continue to give these quality programs about the arts for you. So now I turn this over to Mike Sargent.
Hey, how are you? Okay, well, I'm going to play a segment that I normally do in the mornings called Real World, where I do my film reviews. And part of what we're doing because of this marathon, there's a really, really interesting film that I'm going to review, and I have an interview with the director of. It's called Goldstone. And what makes it interesting is it's a detective thriller that takes place in the outback in Australia with an Aborigine detective. But the film opens today, and it's at Cinema Village, but there's going to be a screening tomorrow evening at 6:30, 7:30, 6:45. And after it, there's going to be a Q&A with one of the lead actors in the film, and I will be moderating that Q&A. And they've been nice enough to give us 3 pairs of tickets. So, if you become a BAI buddy in that time, Tony and I will be on after I play this segment and tell you exactly how you can get your pair of tickets by supporting WBAI.
You're tuned to listener-sponsored radio, WBAI, and I'm Mike Sargent, and this is Real World. There are 23 movies coming out today, but I'm going to talk about 5 of them. I'm going to go through them quickly, and then we've got a film at the end that I really found both fascinating, interesting, worth seeing, and we've got some tickets to give away. First film I'm going to talk about is the remake of Death Wish. This is a reimagining of Death Wish and an updating. It stars Bruce Willis in the Charles Bronson role, and it's directed by Eli Roth, who's known more for horror films, and written by Joe Carnahan, who's done a series of police and crime dramas, most notably writing and directing The Grey, starring Liam Neeson. I, in opposition to many of my fellow critics, kind of enjoyed this. I never really thought much of the original Death Wish film. I thought it was okay. Maybe I was too young to really appreciate its impact. It was pretty violent. The kidnapping and rape of the wife and daughter was pretty brutal. So maybe at the time that was part of what made it so, let's just say, strong in you understanding why Bronson did what he did. But it was also the 70s, and that was a time when we had movies like Walking Tall and the whole fight back against the system, and it was post-70s, and we had post-60s, and we had Dirty Harry and whatnot. All the sequels to Death Wish, and Bronson made like 5 of them till he was 72, were pretty bad. This, I thought, was a fairly smart updating. Willis, of course, is always enjoyable to watch. His best friend this time is played by Vincent D'Onofrio, the wife by Elizabeth Shue, and Dean Norris, who's really going to be playing, I guess, a policeman for the rest of his life. This film, for me, did a few things that I thought were smart. It addressed some issues head-on that you could, but it really couldn't come out at a worse time, considering where we are with gun control and the ease of getting a gun and what it means in people and gun rights and the NRA and all that. It's addressed in the film, but clearly this was written before where we are right now, so it's addressed, and there's definitely a point of view as to how easy it is, but I can't see this film doing well for a number of reasons. The next film is Red Sparrow. Red Sparrow is a new film starring Jennifer Lawrence as Dominika Egorova. And basically Red Sparrow, without giving away too much of the plot, more than you've seen in the trailers, Red Sparrow falls into the line of La Femme Nikita and a few other films that we've seen where we have a beautiful woman who, for whatever reason, is taken out of the life she had and brought into this new life where it includes her being, on some level, a spy. In this case, she is a gymnast and dancer who suffers an injury that takes her out of her career. She ends up getting pulled into, without giving too much away, something called the Sparrow School, where she becomes a Red Sparrow, which basically, in the world of this film, means that you are a master of seductive and manipulative combat. Jennifer Lawrence asserts herself well in the role, and of course it's fun to watch. This movie, if nothing else, is fun, enjoyable, fairly forgettable, of course, but I enjoyed it. The next film is a film that I was kind of surprised how much I liked it, because I thought, well, I've seen all this before, but I really thought it did something different. It's a film called Submission. It stars Stanley Tucci, and he's a once-acclaimed author who teaches writing at a small liberal arts college. He's got a great marriage to Kyra Sedgwick, and he's comfortable, but he's drowning in discontent. He ends up meeting a student who actually shows promise, played by Addison Timlin. And of course, as these type of films go, she starts to seduce him, and he starts to fall under her spell. But where the film goes and how it portrays in this age of Me Too and sexual harassment and just all the kinds of things that have been going on in college campuses will take you by surprise. I thought it was a very thoughtful and interesting take on what at this point has been seen many, many times. On certain levels, it definitely will remind you of Lolita and other films like that, but on another level, it really looks at two sides to every story. The next film is a film called Oh, Lucy. Oh, Lucy is a very interesting film also. It's written and directed by Atsuko Hiranagi, who is a Japanese filmmaker. She's done 3 shorts, and Oh, Lucy was based on a short. This is her first feature film, and it's about Setsuko. She's a single, emotionally unfulfilled woman who's sort of stuck in this life where she kind of sees where it's heading, and she's pretty much bored with her life. And then her niece calls her up and says, "Hey, I'd like you to finish taking this English class for me because I need to make money at my job and I can't continue it, but I can't finish paying off the tuition. Would you take it over for me?" She, of course, is reluctant at first, but then says, okay. She loves her. She's willing to take this free class just to see what it's like. The teacher of the class is played by Josh Hartnett, and he's got a very, let's just say, unique style. It starts with role-playing. He asks Setsuko to call herself Lucy, put on a blonde wig, and try and be American as she's learning American English. Well, this unlocks something in Lucy, or Setsuko, and she begins to not only let go of the refinements and constraints of her life, but she develops romantic feelings for her American instructor, who literally has disappeared from class. It's a really interesting meditation on a great many things. I recommend it. I was very surprised at how good it was. The last film is a film called Goldstone.
You might want to know. A stranger blew into town last night. A detective. What's he doing here?
Not too sure yet.
We'll find out.
Goldstone is also a very original film. It's a crime thriller that takes place in Australia with an Aborigine detective who basically arrives in this mining town called Goldstone on a missing persons inquiry. And it seems like it's a light-duty investigation, but it really opens up a web of crime and corruption that says a lot about what's going on in Australia, what has been going on there. And I have to say, I was really, really taken with, we are so used to in America seeing the crime thriller just be about the crime or the people involved and not necessarily have as strong political overtones or undertones as we see in this film. I got a chance to talk to the director, writer, half indigenous himself, Ivan Sen, about making this, which is actually a sequel that you don't have to see to another film featuring the same character, Jay Swan, the detective, played by Aaron Peterson. It also stars Alex Russell and Jackie Weaver. And I have to say, once again, this is definitely, if you like crime dramas, if you like detective stories, something very special. I got a chance to talk to Ivan, and the film opens up at Cinema Village today and plays throughout the weekend. But tomorrow, after the 7 o'clock screening, there's going to be a Q&A moderated by yours truly, where we speak to one of the stars of the film, which is Alex Russell. So, if you stay tuned and become a WBAI buddy during this broadcast, we'll tell you how you can get a pair of tickets for yourself. But this is director Ivan Sen for Goldstone. Tell me a little bit about creating the character of Detective Jay Swan, what he might represent for you, and what made you want to return to that character 3 to 4 years later.
I think a lot of it actually has to do with Aaron Pedersen, who plays Jay Swan. He's an Indigenous detective who I have very much drawn from the historical reference of the Black Tracker, who was an Indigenous person who was recruited by the British to help track down Indigenous people, to massacre them and to basically wipe them out, which is kind of a common theme throughout the countries that have been colonised around the world. And I guess it's also this Black Tracker kind of manifestation is something which is something I identify with as well, being of both mixed blood and a foot in Indigenous world and one in the European Australian world. And so as a result, not really feeling like we belong in either one of those places. For me, he's a character which can actually shine a light on issues because he has a foot in both these worlds, and he's employed by the Crown, but at the same time he's trying to help his own people. So there's a big dilemma there for him.
Considering the milieu of both films are, investigating crime and people don't want him to be there, what were the things you were trying to achieve in Goldstone that you didn't want to, repeat yourself that you'd done in the prior film, and what were the things that you felt were important to keep as constants for the story?
Well, it was important for me to keep this dilemma which faces the character. It actually, it's a big source of internal conflict and external conflict of an Indigenous policeman, because that very word just attracts conflict, and that's something which I wanted to maintain. And this time we see this detective. He's actually in a very darker place than we met him in the previous film, Mystery Road. And so it's actually showing that even though Indigenous people try to break out of this world that's being forced upon them, the trappings and all the issues that face everyone who is Indigenous actually can get any of us at any time, come back and get us. And but with Goldstone, I really wanted to show the social connections which are present in Australia today, and which actually have a direct reference to the past and how this country was, invaded and colonised, and a lot of these connections are very much unchanged, even today. It's showing the overlapping of cultures in this country where there is money to be made and people are there to be exploited from many different angles and perspectives.
I'm Mike Sargent. This has been Real World. Please become a BAI buddy, and if you want to see this really, really interesting film, stay tuned. We'll tell you what to do.
And we are back. My name is Tony Bates, and as Savona announced, I'm joining Mike Sargent here. Mike, we are just about near the end of the program. I want to give the number out that folks are going to have to call in a few moments to make a pledge of support, and that number is 516-620-3602, and you can tell folks what we're doing from here.
Well, yes, I can. So what we're doing is this. Tomorrow there's going to be a 6:30 screening at Cinema Village of Goldstone. And after that screening, there's going to be a Q&A, a live Q&A where the actor who's in it is actually going to be Skyped in from Australia live to talk to the audience about the film and making the film. And it's, like I said, you really haven't seen anything quite like this film. It's politically informed. It's got a lot to say. But if you call and become a WBAI buddy, here's what we'll do. We have 3 pairs, so you got to be one of the first 3 people. What do you think? What level of BAI buddy should it be, Tony?
Well, what we're really going to do, Mike, is we're going to ask folks to pledge at a level of $50 or more, or become a buddy.
Okay.
We want people to support State of the Arts today. We have a wonderful show here that comes on Fridays. Savona brings the most guests, and if y'all will remember a couple of weeks ago when she had the Resistance Revival Choir in here, dope. We had live music on the air from that choir who performed at the Grammys with Kesha over and over. Savona moves throughout the city, bringing arts from different communities, not only from the diaspora. We've seen Chinese dynasty art. We have seen Jewish art on the show. We've seen all over. She moves through the cultures in this city and presents that each week on the show. So what we're asking folks is that you become a WBAI buddy. What is a WBAI buddy? Well, that's a person who chooses to sustain the station on a monthly basis. You take one of your credit cards, your Discover card, MasterCard, American Express, Visa card, and you decide, I'm going to give WBAI $25 each month. That money comes off, and this way we know that we are at a certain level. Each month we have enough money to direct to certain bills. I'm supposed to have numbers. The general manager was just working on numbers for me a few moments ago, Mike, about how many more of these buddies we need to gain before the end of this fundraiser. But we're close to reaching that goal. And if we can get to, I think, $25,000 a month coming in, it puts WBAI at an advantage. So that's the goal we're working toward currently. But we want to start here today with you becoming a buddy for State of the Arts, supporting the work that Savona Bailey does here on WBAI. She is a volunteer. She is the only woman of color in Harlem who has been curating public art for 20 plus years. That is badass. That is badass. And shouts out to Jeannie Hopper for finding Savona and bringing her onto these airwaves. But we need to hear shouts out from you. We see your emails. We appreciate that. It's not enough. We see your tweets. We appreciate it. It's not enough. We get your phone calls, and we appreciate those. It's not enough. It's your dollars that speak here. 516-620-3602 is the phone number for you to call to become a WBAI buddy. And if you do that and or pledge in the next 15 minutes, we will give you a pair of tickets. And how many do we have, Mike? I think 3 pairs.
We have 3 pairs of tickets for the 6:30 show at Cinema Village, which includes a Q&A that'll be moderated by myself. And if you say that I want to see Goldstone, you let them know when you make that call that I'm either pledging to support BAI and I'm interested in Goldstone tickets, or I'm a BAI buddy and I want the Goldstone tickets. Your choice, like Tony said. You can do it. And imagine this. Imagine if we had enough BAI buddies and we knew we had certain amount of money coming in every month. we wouldn't have to do any marathons.
Well, we wouldn't have to do any, but at this point, we could cut back on some days, and that's a reality. That's
a reality.
If we could reach that $25,000 monthly mark, in real talk, Mike, we could really start to cut days back from our fund drives, and that's the impact of having that monthly stipend to come in and having folks commit to WBAI. And remember how necessary WBAI is. Savona Bailey, who is a woman of color who curating art, making her kind of a unicorn, curating public art. She is rare. That's why she's here on these airwaves. It's a person from the community. She lives in Harlem. She is Harlem. She's all up in Harlem, and she is Harlem. And when we have our voices, our art from our city on the airwaves, that's what WBAI's mission is to do. But your part is when you step up and support the station. 516-620-3602 or visit give2wbai.org. That's give the numeral 2 WBAI.org. And pledge your support for this program. Pledge your support for the work that Savona does. Y'all hear it. It's clean when Savona comes in here. She don't necessarily sound like all of the other shows on WBAI. She's got a different perspective. She's got a different flow. And you hear that in her program. We're asking for your support of that. And for the first 3 people who make a pledge during the next 10 minutes at this point, you will be able to go and see a screening of Goldstone. And again, tell us where that is, Mike, and what time that is.
Well, it's at 6:30, and it's at the Cinema Village. If you don't know where the Cinema Village is, actually, I can give you that address in a minute here. But Cinema Village is great. It's like WBAI. It's a part of New York that if you've never been there, it's a great theater. It's not like a lot of the multiplexes that you've been to before, but it's a great venue to see a movie, and it's a great movie to see because it's a movie that gives you a glimpse of something that you don't. The address of Cinema Village is 22 East 12th Street. For those who don't know, it's right in the East Village. It's right in the center of the village, literally. And tomorrow at 6:30, when we have that screening, there'll be a Q&A after, and it's all included. If you make that pledge, you and a guest can go. Or if you're somebody that you know that you think would love to see something like this, something interesting, a different kind of detective thriller, pledge for them.
Wow, 516-620-3602. Make that call, make a pledge of support. Now, Mike, you do a show on the station. It comes on Monday nights at midnight. Some would think of that as Tuesday morning, but in radio, that's Monday night.
Yes, it is Monday night. Yeah.
And it's called Real World. Tell us about your show.
Well, my show on Monday nights is called Night Shift.
I'm sorry.
Real World was a segment we just heard.
Did we have an argument about that on the phone, you and I? About the Night Shift and Real World thing in terms of show names? Never mind.
Well, in terms of show names, say that again?
I'm the one that screwed that up after you and I went back and forth.
I know. Well, that's
right.
okay. That's okay.
Right
you are human after all, Tony.
Who knew?
But, yes, Night Shift is on Mondays at midnight, from midnight till 3 a.m. It's a great show to listen to. I guarantee that if you're not tired, I'll keep you awake till 3 a.m. But we cover everything. The point of view of the show is that life is like science fiction, so I cover the gamut. We have music, we have talk, we take calls, I have interviews, I interview filmmakers, comic book artists, musicians. I've had all kinds of folks on there. And I couldn't do a show. It's a late night magazine. I couldn't do a show like that anywhere else than a place like WBAI. You mentioned that Savona is a unicorn. WBAI is the home of the unicorn.
Hello.
Okay, and this is where you can find it. You can find the uniqueness of radio, the uniqueness of radio in New York, the uniqueness of radio in this country right here on a Pacifica station on WBAI. And that's something you have to support. You support everything else in your life that you enjoy. You pay for it. You tithe, and you have to do that for BAI too.
Yeah, we belong here. We're your station. It's your community station. It's art from our community all over the city of New York, from every art community, not just one. Savona is broad and focuses on this city. And what I like about the show is, Mike, at some points at WBAI, we've forgotten to talk about how beautiful our city is, what some of the great parts of our city is. Oh, my goodness, yes. And New York is an arts city, and Savona brings that to these airwaves. People in New York love art. I didn't have much exposure to art before I came. I'm from South Carolina. I mean, really, South Carolina, and the most art I saw was me and my cousins with sticks drawing in the dirt. You know what I'm saying? And getting here and having that experience on the radio, I wouldn't know about most of these exhibits, nor would I be interested in them, except that I've been exposed to them because of WBAI and because of State of the Arts and Savona Bailey. 516-620-3602 to support this program. Pledge your support right now. Become a WBAI buddy, become a sustaining member, or choose to pledge at the $50 level or $100 level. I'm going to tell you, I don't know if y'all heard the show earlier with me and Gary Null, and I know it's been on a couple times today, but the truth is, Gary Null has some supplements called Supreme Health Formula. It's a mineral supplement. And I'm just telling y'all, I've been taking it for about 10 days, and it has changed my mood. It has changed my presence. It has given me clarity. And it's $100 pledge. It's called Supreme Health Formula. If y'all just want to pledge for that, it's $100, 516-620-3602. It's changing my life. It might impact yours. In fact, Mike, you and I had this conversation a couple of nights ago.
Yes, as a matter of fact, after you took it, I was wondering, why do I like Tony now? I like him now, Tony.
Oh, that's pretty funny. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people are feeling that way. And really, it's kind of, I realized that my cells were literally starving. And I'm giving them nutrients now, but that's not where we're focused. I'm just trying to get y'all any number of things people might.
You know what? Listening to WBAI is nutrients for your brain, nutrients for your soul, because, you know, we give you information not just on physical health, but the mental health, on spiritual health, on all those things. A healthy mind is one that's constantly active and absorbing information. So listening to BAI is like taking in nutrients.
It's like unicorn food. 516-620.
Unicorn food. Yes, it is.
We need T-shirts. 516-620-3602. Make a call now, folks. Make a pledge of support. Support State of the Arts with Savona Bailey. Support WBAI. 516-620-3602. Or visit give2wbai.org. We got to get out of here and make way for the master, Gary Bird himself, my brother Imhotep, coming right through. And we'll see y'all on the other side. Stay tuned to WBAI, 516-620-3602. Mike Sargent, thank you very much for being with us today. Reggie Johnson, thank you for engineering the program.
All right, thank you, Tony.
Peace.
I woke up this morning with my man. You said I'll be on March 7th, on the eve of International Women's Day, Joy of Resistance is honored to present a screening of the newly released and widely acclaimed film, The Rape of Recy Taylor. In 1944, Recy Taylor, a black Alabama sharecropper, was kidnapped while leaving church and gang-raped by 6 white men. Such assaults of African-American women were common in the Jim Crow South. Threatened that she would be killed if she told, she spoke out anyway, and the local NAACP sent their best organizer to help her. Her name was Rosa Parks. The campaign that followed became a nationwide protest and helped to spark the civil rights movement. Now a film has been made of this extraordinary story, and you can see it on March 7th at the Brooklyn Commons and stay for the panel afterward. This is a benefit for WBAI. For more information, go to WBAI.org.
On Sunday, March 4th at 11 p.m., Sugar in My Bowl presents guitarist, band leader, composer, and educator, Mary Halverson. Join us as we discuss parts of Mary Halverson's career and her latest Cold Girl release as we kick off Women's History Month. That's Sunday, March 4th at 11 p.m., right here on WBAI New York, 99.5 FM, and WBAI.org on the web.
Hey, this is Fernando.
This is Gabriel. And I'm Nick.
And we are WBAI interns. On a mission to recruit more BAI buddies to support our station.
A BAI buddy is someone who signs up to make a reoccurring monthly donation to WBAI. It's safe, secure, simple, automatic, and means a great deal to keeping our unique essential programming on the air.
To become a BAI buddy, just go to WBAI.org to sign up. Or, if you prefer to sign up through the phone, you may call our call center at 516-620-3602.
Once you join, you will receive a BAI buddy card that allows you to take advantages of member benefits and special opportunities both on and off air, plus a tote bag.
Questions? Just email buddy at WBAI.org. And remember, your support helps keep us on the air.
All right, and once again, this is WBAI New York, 99.5 FM, and WBAI.org on the web. This is a listener-sponsored community radio station providing you a Pacifica state of mind since 1960, and we are closing out week number 4 of our fund drive here, of winter, membership drive, I should say, of winter 2018, raising funds to make sure that WBAI continues to provide you information that you expect from us here on a regular basis. The number to call to show your financial support, once again, is 516-620-3602. Once again, 516-620-3602, or go to give2wbai.org on the web. That's give2, the number 2, wbai.org on the web. Or you can text to donate, texting WBAI to the number 414